You're listening to Built to Convert, the podcast where growth-minded marketers, founders, and creators come to level up. No hype, no guesswork, just bold insights that drive results. Let's go.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Built to Convert. I'm Tyler Lane, founder of Session Interactive. On this show, we talk with growth-minded marketers, founders, and operators about how strategy, analytics, and execution come together to drive meaningful growth. Whether it's performance marketing, conversion optimization, or leadership in fast-moving teams, we're digging into what actually works. This episode is brought to you by Session Interactive, the agency built for brands that want smarter performance. From SEO and paid media to analytics and CRO, we help marketing teams turn data into direction and direction into growth. Learn more at sessioninteractive.com. All right, guys, Chuck Aikens here with me, a longtime digital strategist, founder of multiple marketing ventures, and currently the CEO of Tidal Wave Content and a founder of Tymoo, a consultancy laser focused on AI and how it's changing search and product discovery. Chuck previously founded an agency called Volume 9, a respected digital-based SEO and content agency, and now spends his time advising CPG brands on how to adapt their visibility strategy in a world increasingly powered by AI. Chuck, it's always good to see you. I appreciate your time today. Welcome.
Well, thanks, Tyler. And, we were talking beforehand about how we met so many years ago and all the people that we both know. So it's great to be here today. And I can't wait to unpack where we are right now in the world of AI and marketing. And who knows where all this is headed.
We interviewed a woman, Lisa Adams, and I don't know if you know Lisa. She's the best.
Oh, she's absolutely. We are so lucky here in Denver to have her and some other folks that are leading the AI marketing paradigms and understanding. And no, she is great. So anybody out there, follow her for sure.
Shout out to just the community in Denver. Chuck, it's, you had mentioned just our connections and our direct and our first connections, our secondary connections, and a lot of that, just the Denver talent is just pretty impressive. And I'm just so grateful and thankful to be a part of it. And one thing why I brought up Lisa too, not only is she's just one of the best people, she's just like, no one's an expert in this, right? Let's be clear. And if anyone's saying they're an expert in AI, that's a red flag. Let's be. We're learning. We're adapting. Would you agree, Chuck?
100%, Tyler. If they are an expert in AI, they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Chuck. So a little bit of background. I mean, listen, you started V9 and ultimately exited that agency. Really impressive, incredibly respected agency here in Denver, continues to be a really respected agency. And now you're really fixated on a couple different ventures. Talk about kind of where that exit left you and where you really focus on with Tymoo and Tidal.
Yeah, so Volume 9, 15 years here in the Denver marketplace, and worked with some incredible people. One of those persons or people was Natalie Henley, who still runs Volume 9, and we both know very well.
Good. And
you're right, is a very respected agency and does great work. When Natalie took over the agency and 3 years ago, I set out on a personal journey that I had no idea where it would take me. I just know I needed to make a move after 15 years. I won't say it's a midlife crisis, but it was a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
What's funny is that if that happened 3 years ago, we all experienced OpenAI and ChatGPT for the first time right after that, about 2.5 years ago, depending on if you were November, December, January, February, but by March or April, we had all played with Search GPT, or Chat GPT then. I now call it Search GPT for the work that I do. And I have played with AI. I've always been into algorithms, low code, and different things like that. But just like the first day I ever searched Google, and I remember the day, I had that epiphany when I saw when I saw what the chatbot was doing that first time. I was hooked immediately. And I've dedicated as much of my time and learning as I possibly can while, working 10 times harder than I ever did when I had the agency for clients. And I was working pretty hard to begin with. I'm tinkering, playing, learning, just really immersing myself into where AI is taking us and what it's going to mean for both marketing overall, but marketing agencies, brands, whatever it might be. I mean, we're in the thick of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just, hats off to you just to recognize that, because I think admittedly a lot of us people in general were intimidated by it, but also, oh, it's another fad, right? It'll just kind of teeter out here as a peak component, and then it'll die down, but it's here to stay. Let's be very clear. What are some of those lessons running a traditional SEO agency that you learned help you prepare for this kind of AI driven shift? I know you mentioned like just that excitement you felt with Google and just like, wow, this is changing the game, right? And now with your first couple of searches, your first couple of prompts with ChatGPT, what was that like in terms of how you prepare for this AI driven shift?
Well, after the epiphany happens where you can see the potential, or you're just like, wow, this works. For me, I've discovered that there's a lot of similarities between how the search algorithms developed over time, the social media algorithms, specifically, we could talk about Meta, how those two events changed marketing. They didn't do it immediately, and the search algorithms were my first exposure to that. And, you can kind of see in my background, I have a panda, a penguin, and a hummingbird that I keep in my background. Those are the names of the algorithm updates that Google rolled out that honestly put some of the people that I worked with at Volume 9 at the forefront of trying to figure out what the heck was going on and what were we all going to do about it, both as agencies, as brands, and how it's going to affect the consumer. The same thing happened with social media. As Facebook and IG and TikTok, as that kind of developed, it changed how we marketed. So take those two events and now overlay it into AI. And everyone's trying to correlate AI to SEO and a little bit to social. And I keep getting this question of like, how do I optimize for large language models? Or how do I GEO, generative engine optimization? And I'm sitting here going, that's not how it works, right? That this is such a different paradigm in what it's going to do, and it's bigger, than even those two algorithms. So that's what got me excited. As I said, the game is about to change, which for me is scary, or anyone listening to this, but at the same time, it creates immense opportunities. Yeah. That's the correlation or the learning. And I remember watching everyone, kind of like throwing food into a school of fish, catfish, whatever it might be. And like they start swarming. That's what happened all of a sudden, when everyone started talking AI. And I just sat back and said, let's watch this. And it's still happening today. As AI mode comes into Google, and we talk about, AI overviews, there's a lot of opportunistic people who are marketers saying, hey, I'm going to solve today's problem. Right. I like that Wayne Gretzky analogy of, let's go to where the puck's going. That's where I'm spending my time. Like, what is this going to look like in a year, or 2 or 3? Because it's not just that you need to build to convert. I mean, you got to build to survive. I mean, this is going to be binary. The people and the brands that have an AI forward look are going to win. That's my hypothesis. And the ones that don't, they're no longer going to be relevant. Yeah. That's the world we're going to be in at some point in the future.
That's a good point, or that question that people are positioning to you. How do I optimize LLMs? And, there's definitely some tactics and techniques around that. But I think, would you say you're getting at more of like this overarching strategy around user behavior, right? And getting past the individual channel and be more of kind of immersive in your marketing experience? Would you say that's how kind of you're positioning that in that answer?
Absolutely. Let me back up for a second so that we can segue into that. Whenever I would talk about SEO, when Volume 9 was primarily an SEO agency first and foremost, people always wanted to talk about keyword research, or how to do keyword density and NLPs and all. And I said, hold on a second. And I would take them to the 10 things that Google holds to be true. And number one is focus on the user and all else will follow. And, even today, like I know, David Yarian,
Of course.
He still subscribes to that. Like if you focus on the user and then you do SEO, you're aligned with Google, right? So to answer your question, when we think about AI, it's not about how to optimize your brand for the large language model. That is a question. It's not a bad question. I mean, it is a tactical question, but we need to step back and say, wait a second. How is the user? How is the shopper? How is problem searching, searching to solve a problem, going to change going forward? And when you think about that, there's a different answer that you arrive at, and we can talk about that a little bit, than how to optimize using GEO, SEO, and content. Like there's a different conversation that takes place when you think about how voice search or Apple Intelligence or Search GPT or Perplexity are changing. Now, early adopters still, but they're changing the way that people do things in their browser to gather information to make a decision. Like that's a game changer. And that's what we need to understand, because then you can figure out what you need to do as an agency or a brand or as a marketer, as an entrepreneur. And you're moving towards that puck a year or two down the road.
Love it. Back to the Wayne Gretzky reference as well. In terms of how just that user behavior as whole, right? You mentioned AI mode. That's an option now, and it most likely is the future of how Chrome's going to evolve. We know Perplexity, we know ChatGPT has a search functionality as well. The experience between those, and then you add in social as well, are wildly different, right?
Yes.
For example, Google still you're getting a lot of options. You're getting ads still. You're not getting a ton of the nuance, a little bit more with AI mode versus, right, the LLMs, which really get that add that layer of specificity, position different questions to you, allow you and kind of cut out the noise. And then you have social, for example, TikTok, giving you quick shorts and snippets and digestible video that's addicting, right? And so are you seeing people going through and essentially remixing and validating across different platforms? Or you see people, depending, I'm assuming on the generational front too, some people are replacing platforms like Google with LLMs. Some others are mixing across the platforms too. I'm curious what you're seeing thus far as you're evaluating and working with clients.
Well, two quick things.
Please.
Absolutely. Generationally, I don't know if there's ever been as big of a difference between older and younger generations. The youngest generation is much more using Search GPT and voice search. And I don't mean talking to Alexa. I mean talking to their phone conversationally than we're seeing with the older segment. So yeah, sure, that's number one. And in the concept of remixing, I do still think that the average user, shopper, person is going across multiple platforms. Like, as a marketer, I call it search everywhere or learn everywhere.
I love that.
And then they're kind of going through this thought process to arrive at how to solve a problem or which brands or product category leaders, yada, yada, yada. It's a tremendously inefficient way of trying to solve a problem. So, and I think that when you think about AI mode, what Google was building, which is much more like Perplexity than it is Search GPT, is the agentic search of the future is going to take into account all that history, everything that's on your phone, your calendars, everything it knows about you, and help you or give you recommendations so that you don't have to remix. So if we watch the remixing behavior today of consumers and shoppers, we probably will have some insight into how the agentic search agents will work, whether powered by Apple, OpenAI, Claude, Anthropic, or Gemini, Google. Like they're all going to try to solve the same problem, which is to collapse time, increase your speed to learn, and then help you make a good decision by being a recommendation engine. And they're going to do that in seconds so that you don't have to do all of those things, or at least remember it. You're still going to watch the TikTok video. You're still going to, you're still going to do searches, but you're not it looks as if the brand promise will be that when you truly have a problem and want a solution, the agentic search agent delivers that to you faster.
Yeah. The personalization component. And Chrome's been personalizing behind the scenes for a long time, but I think that is the wave of the future of just getting that ultimate personalization. We've been talking about it within websites for years. Oh, personalized experience, yada, yada. And, certain websites and platforms do that to a certain extent. But yeah, that's getting more and more. Let's dive deeper into CPG brands in particular, Chuck. How are they going to adapt as it relates to AI overviews, agentic research, how the traditional clicks are changing? It's replacing traditional clicks. Talk to me about CPG brands, and I'd love to get your opinions and thoughts around how KPIs are shifting as well, outside of impressions, clicks, some of those vanity metrics as well, versus what we should be focusing in on.
Right. Yeah. So Tyler, a few things. One, I think CPG is a great industry niche segment, whatever you want to call it. I don't know which word to use, because typically, you're usually spending 10, 20, 100, 200, $300. And also the most CPGs each product solves a particular problem. So it's a great experience, experimental place to kind of watch the shopping behavior. I say that because I also work with B2B software companies. I work with universities. Even if you get into things like finance and home services, it gets more complicated. But in CPG, you have a problem. There's a product category that solves that problem. And then inside of that product category, you have multiple brands, and it's very noisy. And it's hard for a shopper to understand what's different about each product. I mean, just walk into Whole Foods, and how many beef jerky companies are there? Come on, how many, it's a space where differentiation is really hard. So in CPG, that's one of the reasons why I use that as an example point.
Yeah.
But, what I want to establish is kind of two things. There's actually two AI shopping experiences right now that occur. Okay. One is conversational, so think ChatGPT.
Yep.
And then one is agentic, and they are not the same at all. So AI mode on Google and Perplexity is going to be a very different experience for somebody than conversational search. What I would encourage a marketer or brand or agency to do is to focus on conversational search first, because you can get a lot of information that you're not able to pick up in agentic because it happens so fast, and it's hard to deconstruct. Now you can do it once you understand conversational shopping and what happens there. So if we could just for a second, I want to talk about conversational search to solve a problem, specifically using ChatGPT, even though we could use Claude or Gemini or other products to do it. Mm-hmm. And what's happening right now, and what's very unique about it, and I love this about the concept, is that if I simulate a conversation as a shopper where I have a problem, I then look at all available solutions. So let's say it's sleep.
Yeah, let's give you an example here.
When I get into sleeping better, I could buy new mattresses and pillows. I could change lifestyle. I could take herbs.
Supplements,
I can buy a cooling pad. I can get a ring. There's so many different options that I have to first discover different solutions and decide which ones I want to dive into to get down into a product category. Okay, there's research on this and publicly available. The average shopping session in ChatGPT, if you're in a problem-solving mode, is between 6 and 8 minutes. And in that 6 minutes, there's 3 distinct phases. Working through the problem, and actually ChatGPT does this, you just don't realize it. First, you got to identify the problem. Then you look at all the solutions to figure out which one you want to dive into. Then you dive into that. Each one lasts about 2 minutes.
Interesting.
There is mental fatigue at that 6 to 8 minute mark where people either bail or they go ahead and jump over to a branded website to make a purchase. Right. And what's about to happen? This was announced about 4 to 6 weeks ago. This is airing in June of 2025. That OpenAI and Shopify formed a partnership right? Where the promise is, we haven't seen this yet, but what they're saying is that SKUs directly from Shopify will be in OpenAI so that you go right to cart. If you think about that, that is in the 5th or 6th minute of conversation. Now let's jump over to Google for a second.
Yep.
In Google, the average search session is 76 seconds. So what's happening is when someone goes to Google, they're already deep in that shopping process.
Yep.
They already know either the product category, solution category, or brand they're looking for. So they're just there for 1 minute. So as marketers, we've learned that search is to answer one question in the journey. And we'll either buy that or we'll come up with an organic strategy to win that keyword. So our blinders over the last 10, 15, 20 years have been programmed this way. And it's a bitch to unprogram that.
Yeah, it is. Totally.
So that's why I'm trying to teach people, like, think about the entire 6-minute window, what a shopper is going to go through conversationally with AI, and see how you show up as a brand. So out of the last 10 times that I've done this, the brand that I'm searching for or representing never shows up as a recommended solution. ChatGPT will usually give you 3 solutions. So you're either in the top 3 or you're not. And this is human psychology.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, they pick 3 competitors. And then, of course, the brand gets really upset, right? And if it's a great, okay, let's audit, let's optimize and do everything. But actually the trick, and everybody should do this, right? Because just like when we Googled our names back in the days.
Exactly.
So, go through this and see which brands and products are getting recommended by ChatGPT. But here's what's great. Unlike Google all these years, I can ask ChatGPT why it didn't pick me specifically. And so we're able to develop rather quickly the criteria that we need to work on for our target audience that is hyper-personalized. So I have a hyper-personalized audience, and then understand what I need to teach the LLM so that I get selected. And that is not optimizing the way we used to do for SEO. This is going back to your whiteboard and saying, do I need to change my business? Am I articulating clearly? How quickly can someone understand my solution? Because that's all AI cares about. And it is the best secret shopper ever, because you can use synthetic data to make 10 or 20 or 30 personas and see how many of them you're winning.
Yep.
Really quickly. And then think about, what is it that I need to talk about more? And believe it or not, and you're probably going to believe it, but people, the thing that AI tells you need to talk about is the thing you've been avoiding, that you just don't want to deal with. You just hope people never figure out that it takes you too long to ship, or that you have a high return rate, or whatever it might be. And AI knows this, so we got to deal with it. Like the average shopper may not stumble upon it, but AI learns it really quick because it's consuming the entire internet and compiling and making information at speeds that we cannot comprehend.
Wild. I mean, what was the stat the other day? It was like LLMs will finish consuming the entirety of the internet by the end of 2026. Something like that. I can't remember exactly the exact timeline. Chuck, great points, obviously, and the ability to question and the ability to prompt an LLM specifically, why didn't I come up, right? Really pretty impressive stuff, and just simplistic an overview, absolutely, that people often probably don't do. Let's chat about content in particular. So information, let's say in terms of CPG, great, you got that information. Okay, what specific insights or actions from that process? Okay, they've evaluated the terms. They theoretically are going through an optimization process within Google. They're trying to go through an optimization process and essentially a research change, if you will, within LLMs. What are brands fixated on doing as relates to content on their website? LLMs are getting the information somewhere, right? So they're crawling and then making the recommendations accordingly. How are you advising clients on the quality of content, one, And in terms of the research path, which is likely separate than what we were doing for SEO for so long, those traditional methods of trying to own the keyword landscape. And now we're trying to own nuance, right? We're trying to own the entirety of the research process to ensure we're coming up and we're a relevant resource for an individual. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that we could go there, but
yeah. One or two.
Yeah, let's focus on maybe an underlooked or an underserved piece of content.
Love it.
Because we all understand top of funnel informational content, and, blog posts, and we understand the importance of video. Like we understand these type of things. So right now, one of the things we're talking about with CPG brands, but honestly, all brands, even like if we use a B2B software analogy,
sure.
is some of the content you need to provide is actually buried in your customer service department. And even Google communicates that they want to see this, the old EEAT that people talk about. When we talk about in the T space, trust, transparency, different items, transparency is really important with the large language models. So in the CPG space, that often can be ingredients, it could be sustainability, where do you source, are you fair trade, how do you treat your employees, like it kind of wants to know this. Now that seems like fluff, and everyone's like, oh, nobody really cares, but it's like the large language models do. Like when you look at Google Shopping, just as a proxy into how shopping agents might work, return rates and return policies are really important. That's a criteria. Moving up from there, FAQs that might exist that could only be answered by your customer service teams become more important. It's why Google and everyone's putting a lot of focus on things like Reddit and other user-generated content or influencer video and UCG. It's because they want to hear from real people giving real answers. They don't really want the marketing feed, which then leads to the CPG space. Reviews, incredibly important. If you go on Amazon right now, with what's happening at the top of Amazon, and this is all going to follow suit, is that Amazon does a quick summary of the 2,000 reviews that a product has. It's doing that with AI. Well, that's how AI is thinking too. So if on this end you have a brand and CPG website that says a bunch of stuff, great. Then it's going to go out all over the internet and look for all the stuff it can find, like reviews. So let's say you distribute through Walmart or Whole Foods or whatever, there's reviews there. So you have all this user-generated content that's being compiled, and you'd say, why? And what people think is, to help me rank number one, be a recommended product. That's actually not true. You mentioned personalization earlier. What's going to happen in this great era of personalization is personalization's not going to happen on a website. It's too complicated. The large language model that has crawled the entire internet and understands that person in a way that we will never understand them is trying to matchmake. It's trying to please the user. Like, have you noticed how nice ChatGPT is to you?
Oh, God. The ego bait, right?
Oh, my God.
Great work, Chuck. Excellent stuff,
yeah.
Chuck.
So when it comes time to recommend a product, what is it going to want to do?
Yeah.
It's going to want to recommend the best product for you based on what it knows or what it asks you. So the purpose of reading all this is not to optimize to be at the top of the list. The purpose is to say, when somebody shows up where there is a match between the shopper and the consumer and your brand, AI wants to make that match. So how can we teach AI who the perfect customer is? It's like, I always remember, I'm a Seth Godin fan. I know he's kind of quirky or whatever. And, I listened to him, 15 years ago at a conference. Yeah. And he said, look, you need 100 fans. Harley got it right.
Evangelists, those, yeah.
When you either are a Harley Davidson person or you're not. And if you're not, they don't care.
Yeah.
They just want their customers, and that's it. That's what we're talking about here. So, whatever your brand is, whatever you're selling, you need to find those evangelists and those fans and figure out how to teach AI through all of the signals that it can get of how to find that person for you. right? Because when that person goes searching, you're going to come up top on that list. That's why when I talk about the synthetic data, it's as important that you get recommended for your true target audience fit as you're like, ooh, okay, I didn't win that one. I know why. And I chose not to, because I cannot be a product for everybody, but I want to make sure I clearly articulate with clarity and speed. We can talk about what speed means a little bit, so that the large language model, the AI agent, can actually make the recommendation when it's supposed to. Like that's going to be how personalization works. And it's not going to be perfect in the beginning, but that is that puck down the road of saying, hey, I want to make sure that I'm recommended, not for a market segment, right? Our personas are all too broad, but I'm talking about for that specific person, because when that match is made, they'll just click the buy button.
See you later. Yeah, exactly. They don't need to necessarily digest it into a website. Chuck, you mentioned some common, highlight some common mistakes, because I think that CPG brands, and it sounds like it's what you're seeing, it's across the board, but it is that, like, that trust, that authenticity, and just the full openness around transparency around what you get, what exactly we provide. It reminds me of a little bit of SaaS companies that will never disclose the pricing. Right. Or admittedly, hey, customized pricing, right, to you. It's like, okay. What common mistakes are CPG brands making? Is it around just the lack of full transparency and not providing what the A to Z experience is, where the product came from, what it's all about, the moral compass, the ethical responsibility that brand has, and all the details, ingredients, everything like that? Do you think that's the issue, and that people aren't really prioritizing? What would you say there in terms of mistakes that they're making?
Yeah, it's interesting, Tyler. We all make different mistakes, right?
Yeah,
depending on where we are. Too. I would say that in today's world, with where we are, there's something that people do that they shouldn't, and there's something that they don't do. What they do at the moment is that shiny object, right? An agency shows up and makes a promise. A product says it'll do them. Like, we're all chasing the silver bullet, the AI silver bullet. Make me better. Let me get a leg up. Like, and this isn't new, right? No. We've all done it. Like, oh, everything I ever tried didn't work. Maybe this next thing will. So I don't trust any of it ever. So that's, the first mistake. Now, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't try and learn from it, but do realize that you're not evaluating ROI here. You're really just paying tuition for your education. Like, it just, and that can be valuable at the moment, but like there's not a silver bullet. So that's the first mistake. And it's okay, like I said, but just don't drink the Kool-Aid, right? We're not there yet.
Yep.
Now in the other space, the other biggest mistake across all is that they use an inside out approach. And even the things that you referenced, and it's okay because we all do it.
Sure.
What are my reviews? What is my sustainability? What do I need to say? What is my founder story? Whatever it might be. And I'd actually say, I'm going to go back to, because it's what I learned. It starts with the shopper and the consumer, then work backwards, which is why I'm so quick to secret shop, to simulate that, to focus on the user and get into that mindset, and then work backwards, because that is a very complicated space. Even Google calls it the messy middle. They don't know how it works between top of funnel and bottom of funnel. They just know that they've indexed the world's information, top of funnel, and they know that they get paid at bottom of funnel. But they call it the messy middle, which is a terrible name, right? Like, they're basically admitting they don't know what happens.
They have no clue, yeah.
Right? So I would encourage people to really understand what Google calls, I don't call it that. I have a framework for it that simplifies it, but is to get into that messy middle. You're going to live there for the next 2 or 3 years, trying to figure out what, right? Like, we no longer know how much traffic we get from Google, right? We don't know. We're not going to know what they're searching for in AI mode. Google says they're not going to tell us. They're going to put some information in Google Search Console, but they actually said we won't know how to decipher the information. And it'll have too many false negatives. So they've already decided they're not going to show us.
Yep.
So this is going to get messier. And the market research guys, they're built on old paradigms that isn't going to work. So you as a brand and like when you're thinking about this, you're going to have to start, if you're going to go try to find your customer in the AI world, the search everywhere, learn everywhere world, you're going to have to rethink and start with what they're doing and go talk to them and watch their behavior changes and try to sit in their world, or just watch what you do, and just have curiosity there. Like, how would I find a product and buy it on Perplexity? Who's done that? If you haven't done it, try it once. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Or how would you plan a trip and book a hotel? Most of us don't have access to OpenAI's operator, but it works. And that's where Google's heading, is that if you're traveling, it's going to book your hotel reservation.
Yeah. Yep.
That's wild.
Your book your Uber, book everything, I'm sure. You mentioned just around, and I obviously I'm aware of this too, within Search Console in particular, around visibility and around metrics. Chuck, I fully believe that LLMs, in particular ChatGPT, is going to come out with some level of reporting sooner than Google will. With that said, again, that's a total hypothesis, right? Some foreshadowing. What are we talked about it a bit. We've been chatting about it, but in terms of KPIs and what traditional analytics are changing quite a bit. Referrals back to your site, or what are they doing? Great, their engagement, of course. But as you mentioned, right, the immersive experience, the nuance that they're getting within a Perplexity and ChatGPT. What are you stating to CPG brands, other brands that you're working with too, of like, hey, we've got this fancy dashboard, Chuck. It's reporting on certain things. Our impressions are going up, our clicks are going down. We're not aware of what's happening, or maybe, and revenue is increasing, but we're not necessarily, where do we allocate funds? The data transparency is not there. It's leaving us, and it's never was perfect. Let's be very clear there. How are you advising brands around that and changing up their KPIs a bit?
Well, you said the first part of that, or what I heard in that was, the first is just education, because you're right. Monthly, as I look at the reports, absolutely, impressions down, clicks down. No, impressions up, clicks down.
Impressions up, yep. Clicks down.
So far, even though attribution is not there, revenue is up, or leads are up. So you're like, okay, it's working, right? It's back to that thing of 50% works and 50% doesn't. You just don't know what it is. That's where we're headed. So what kind of KPIs am I trying to put in place? I mean, just right at the moment, like I kind of mentioned the secret shopper. What I'm trying to establish is in the search journey or shopping journey, can we identify the 6 to 8 to 10 questions that represent the prompting journey? Because we're all going to prompt differently. Just like, you've always had other people, like I always have had as a marketing consultant, someone calls me and says, why am I not showing up for this keyword? It's like,
oh yeah,
what did you type? Yeah. Right. So just having consistency or a baseline, because if I ask 9 questions today and you ask 9 questions today, we're going to get different answers. Ask it next week. Right. So it's this concept of, one, can you monitor the answers that come back for a specific personalization where you want the brand, your product, to be recommended? That's why we got to establish this framework of what happens in the 6 minutes. Because if I can simulate that and then repeatedly run it, I now have a baseline. Are you or are you not? That's binary, getting recommended, but also there's sentiment in there. And there's also, like, when I do the questioning, when I'm all done, I actually ask ChatGPT to start giving me scores so that I can figure out on a scale of 1 to 10, how far did I miss the top 3 recommendations? And what often happens, because AI is nice, once I tell it that I'm working for the brand, it starts improving my score, right? And by the time it's done and I've given it some more information, it actually like, oh, in hindsight, I would have put you in the top 3. So right there is a KPI now, like, what kind of work what kind of content do we put on the website? Do we need to distribute across the internet to move you from the 4th or 5th product in a product category to being in the top 3 for your specific personalized personas? Like, right, So your visibility now becomes very, very different. It still is like the keyword tracking model, but like I'm watching people build products that tracks your ranking for a specific question or a specific keyword. Okay, that's the beginning. I mean, SEMrush is doing it,
Sure.
Ahrefs, like,
Yep. Yep.
but that no. We're talking about something different here. That a personalized conversation, you either are or you are not there, and then what changes do you make, and then when you wait for the equivalent of we got to use search terms just to explain for the re-indexing and retraining.
Yep.
Like you got to wait to then see, and the only way you're going to know is just like with Google search results. You got to keep kind of hitting that once a week, and you got to have this at scale because if there's 10 or 20 different hyper personalized question journeys, I mean, I'm not going to sit there and type 9 questions. I mean, that's 180 questions. So this is where automation comes in to then watch to see what's happening, to see if the marketing and branding work that you're doing is effectively training the LLM, right? And then what tactics are you using? Because, maybe there's an industry leader where, you can actually ask ChatGPT where it's getting its information from and work backwards.
Yep.
To know, I probably need to publish on this site, right? Do you want to know if it's referencing Amazon reviews or Walmart reviews or Bazaar Voice or wherever? Just ask it; it'll tell you, and then you know where to go put your content. So that kind of metrics is going to feel a lot more like branding and PR and than it is traditional SEO.
Yep.
Right, because AI is embodying the AI agents, or the conversation is embodying your shoppers now.
Yep.
I don't know if that answers the question, but it's different. It's a different thing to watch, and to monitor.
It's sentiment analysis. It's share of voice is becoming, more apparent. And I think it's up to brands to be able to understand how to articulate that. I think traditional SEO platforms like SEMrush in particular, it's all done by the keyword still.
Yeah.
Right. And it's difficult, right, to synthesize that and to actually put some merit with that if it's just doing keyword tracking.
Yeah.
Because it's changing so much.
Yeah.
Chuck, switching gears here slightly, and this is amazing, and your enthusiasm for this is contagious, and it's great to hear the passion. Talk to me about your prompt engineering process, your prompts, because I've been a part of a lot of different groups and where people are like, oh, I'm just not getting the results I need. And you really evaluate out of an LLM in particular, you really evaluate their prompt process. And it's like, wow, the simplicity there is you're not really adding that level of stream of consciousness. You're not establishing the context of really what you need. You're not necessarily assigning the role of the AI agent either. What are some quick advice or tips that you give to individuals to improve their overarching prompting process, how to evolve or adapt into more of a prompt engineering style, if you will?
Yeah, well, first off, I'm going to give you maybe a contrarian answer.
Sure.
I've somewhat stayed away from prompt engineering,
okay,
and teaching it. That doesn't mean that I don't have 1 and 2 page prompts.
Sure. Yeah.
That do very specific things, but if I were to take someone who's trying to get into AI, even something that AI building or prompt engineering, it's one tool in your overall arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
Other things that become more as important is the inputs that you give it in knowledge. And this has changed a lot. Initially, the RAG, as we call it, the augmented content that we provide surrounding the prompt was really powerful. You could just upload it once and forget it, or put it into a ChatGPT or Claude project, and it was good enough. Yep. But I'm finding that you actually have to integrate some of that knowledge repeatedly to get it into the context window, because the memory is growing. Mm-hmm. So as you think about this, as the memory and the context window grows, and it has to, for these guys to monetize. And the reason I say that is that for AI to make a recommendation, it's got to look over a large window of all your chats and all of these documentation. So the knowledge base is huge. So thinking about what the inputs are that you give it are as important as the prompt. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I often found that if I give it the right information, so the 4 or 5 documents that it needs,
or
videos, I can write a 1 or 2 sentence prompt. Okay.
And get a quality output. Yeah.
Right. So sometimes people, they think they need to work on the prompt, where really the prompt is the middle of the problem. You've got to back up to the beginning of the problem. Who's your persona? What's the personalization? What are your business goals? Blah, 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 blah. Then when you prompt and say, write an email, it has all this information and you have to be very specific. So you could have a large knowledge base. You need to tell it what to go reference. Okay. So, and the other thing that is important is the examples that you provided. So when I do all of my client reporting and analytics using AI, I've been about 6 months into this. I have all of, like, so for example, I have all the previous reports so it understands context. And then I have a sample of what I want it to look like. And that could change every month just depending on what's going on. So the prompt's really easy. I just say, look at this 7-page PDF dashboard and make me a report like this, right? You see, because you had the inputs and outputs in place. Now that's number one. The second thing that is really important, and you mentioned it earlier, it might've been before we were on, you're talking about Zapier and Make, and I mentioned Operator, but just in the agentic space, what's actually more important than how good your single prompt is how you program or codify sequential prompting. So for example, in my world of Zapier, Make, Mind Studio agents, when I want to write a blog post, there's actually between 12 and 15 different small prompts that get written, all in an individual prompt, meaning that every prompt has an input, which is the finish of the last step, and then it knows to go to the next step. So if I were to build a multi-step prompt that was 2 pages long, and I could do this for you live, and you'd be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, sure.
The output would get a C-. Same prompts, but all in one big long prompt. When I separate it into 15 steps, it's an A+.
Interesting. Yeah.
And that's because the AI will do, just so you know, like, then this is built into the system, to save power, to serve as many people as possible. It is built to do the least amount of work possible to make you happy. By breaking it down in 15 steps, it has to make me happy 15 times. When I put it all into one prompt in a super complicated, engineered prompt, you're probably happy.
Yeah.
I did a pretty good job, didn't I? And you'll notice this when you're building artifacts in Claude or OpenAI, right? Like you go in there, and if you just work on it one step at a time, you get a much better end product than if you try to one-shot it. So what you heard in all of that is that, yes, I'll teach prompt engineering and I'll fix your prompt, or I'll ask AI to fix your prompt. What people miss is the input and the sample outputs. And then they miss breaking this down into sequential prompts, whether you're doing that manually or you build an automated workflow that simulates 5-10 prompts rather quickly. Now, that's not a 1 hour project, but still, that's what you understand about AI is that, that's how you have to think about prompt engineering, is how to use the entire ecosystem and work backwards to get the most out of AI. And it's rarely a one shot in today's world. Now that's going to change, but it doesn't work that way right now.
Yeah. Excellent stuff, Chuck. And just really progressive knowledge too. And it helped me think about certain things a little bit differently. And I think this is the beauty of what we're after. We're testing, we're learning. And this is the excitement. Wrapping things up here, where can people get in touch with you, Chuck? Where can they engage you? I know you're all about the community, and obviously you got a variety of new ventures. Talk to me a little bit about Title and Tymoo and what you're up to, and where people can connect with Chuck.
Yeah, Tyler, I was going to say, when you did that intro, man, that sounds impressive. Hey, what you need, find me on LinkedIn. Right, you got to have a business. It's called Tymoo. I've got a product in Tidal Wave Content that is an AI powered content generation. Blah blah blah. That might be, but I think if you made it this far into the podcast, I mean, it's more about the thinking and helping you get a competitive advantage that's going to stand up over the next couple of years, because you only have so much time every day to invest in this new space, and your innovation gambles or bets. I mean, they need to be moving towards the future. So hit me up on LinkedIn. Chuck Aikens is probably the best way. You can go to one of the websites, either Tymoo or Tidal Wave, and hit a contact. But no, I mean, I just love getting on the phone and hearing what different brands and people are up against and seeing what I can do to help. Yeah, if that sounds like you, just reach out to me. But yeah, it's that easy.
Chuck, really appreciate your time and knowledge, and I know I'm leaving with a lot of added value, and looking forward to continuing our conversation separately on some of the integration opportunities. Thanks again. We'll chat soon.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks for listening to Built to Convert. If you're serious about growth, don't just listen. Subscribe, leave a review, and follow us for new episodes that drop straight into your feed. Until next time, keep building.